welcome back to the Enlightened podcast. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Garret.
And we are recording episode number 3 today, which is all about comfort zones. So the Wikipedia definition of comfort zone is a psychological state in which things feel familiar to a person and they are at ease and perceive they are in control of their environment, experiencing low levels of anxiety and stress. In this zone, a steady level of performance is possible. So they're really talking about how when you're in your mind space of being in your comfort zone, you don't have any anxiety or less anxiety, you don't have any stress, and you feel like you're in control. And we kind of talked about, I think I mentioned that in our last episode. I can't remember if I mentioned the control part or not, but I'm kind of a control freak, so I'm just saying. I feel in my comfort zone when I'm in control. So I totally think that that's a very good description of comfort zone. I mean...
Yeah, it sums up pretty well, I would say, that you get into this frame of mind where you don't find it perhaps necessary to take risks, or you feel kind of comfortable where you're at, almost complacent, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of like go mindless, I guess, maybe a little bit. All right, so when I was in high school, I definitely had a comfort zone. I was not a party person. I didn't go out drinking. I didn't do any drugs. I had my comfort zone, which was basically a very small group of friends, and we would either go to a local restaurant and eat mozzarella sticks and fries, or we would watch movies at home or play games, or, occasionally we would step on the very edge of our comfort zone and go to a park at night. But that was very rare. And like most of the time it was like on Halloween or, like a reason to be out at night, So everybody kind of has their own comfort zones, and that was my high school comfort zone. I have different comfort zones now, but I think that, everybody is different, and you can be in your comfort zone 1 minute and then feel totally out of it the next. And I think anxiety and stress, as the description said, play a huge factor in your comfort zone level. So are you in your comfort zone right now?
No.
So
anything involving like public speaking or just talking and doing this podcast, or going out doing that public speaking or talking to people that I don't know is not comfortable for me. I've never liked doing it. It's because I always become self-conscious about the way I talk, getting my thoughts across. Like, it starts to jumble up and I start to stutter sometimes, and I'm worrying about how I sound, my voice, and it's just that's definitely going outside my comfort zone for me. Doing this podcast, talking on this, and going out and talking to people more is all stuff that is not really comfortable for me. That I got used to, just going to work and then coming home at the end of the day and just staying at home and not really.
Was that partially my fault, because my comfort zone is home? I never want to go anywhere. Oh, okay.
This was long before you and I got married. This was just like off and on through most of my life. There were times that I would go out occasionally mostly if it was around people that I know already. Yeah. But going out and meeting new people was not something I necessarily cared for. I
know. When I was in high school, like I was saying, if we wanted to go somewhere, but I knew there were going to be people there that I didn't know, I got really bad anxiety and I didn't want to go because I just didn't want to deal with meeting new people. That was not in my comfort zone level. And I tried to avoid it like the plague, honestly, because I had a very high level of social anxiety in high school because I was picked on a lot in middle school and high school. Grade school, I was one of the popular kids. I don't know what happened, but that totally changed. And so, yeah, I totally understand how that social anxiety is way outside of a comfort zone. Like, yeah, that's major. Today as an adult, like right now, I would say that my comfort zone has increased quite a bit. I'm not as anxious to meet new people. I can have a conversation with a stranger if I really want to, but that's rare. Like, I don't go out seeking it, but if it happens, I can ride the struggle bus through it and deal with it. But I know that we started this podcast because we wanted to do something different. We wanted to try and step out of that comfort zone a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
And so, episode number 2, we were talking about stress, but it was too stressful to talk about stress. So we had like a legit, like, just candid conversation. Mm-hmm. And we started to film this one, and we realized quickly that it was outside of your comfort zone. And that's totally fine. And you're trying to step outside that comfort zone.
I'm attempting to, yes.
Yeah. And so,
which it takes time, because this is still not easy. Like, I still lose my train of thought quite often. I know, and even in just general conversation, I do. There were times that I didn't so much in like general small talk, whatever. But then I'd often end conversations awkwardly. Get to it and feel like you kind of run out of stuff to talk about, and then you kind of like, oh, there's something.
Yeah.
There's something. Oh, did you say something?
I'm sorry. Are you still here?
Or like I would find you usually too if I was talking to somebody else too, and be like, oh yeah, I need to go over here and check on her.
I'm your excuse. I'm your scapegoat, right?
Yeah, I mean, I admit I still find myself doing this to try to go. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, really, to change.
Yeah.
And it's going to probably take a long time, and it's going to take a lot of effort to do it. And that's what this is the beginning of.
Yeah, I think this is a really good way to safely step outside your comfort zone, because the worst case scenario in this example with us doing this podcast is that we we hit stop on the record button and it's over. There's nothing else to it. We just hit stop and we don't have to worry about it anymore. Mm-hmm. But that's not the case for a lot of people. If they are attempting to get outside their comfort zone, there's a point where you kind of hit that point of no return. And it depends on what you're doing. Maybe somebody's comfort zone is getting outside of somebody's comfort zone might be getting over a fear of heights. So they go bungee jumping or skydiving or climb a big huge tree. I don't know.
Pretty extreme way of
I know, right? I don't know there's many people that would go that extreme to get out of their comfort zone.
I'm terrified of heights. Now let me go jump off this cliff.
Okay, right? Well, I mean, you get my point though. I'm trying to come up with an idea that if you are terrified of heights and you climb a humongous tree to go zip lining or something, maybe that's a little safer. Zip lining is a little safer than jumping out of a plane. If you're like all hooked up and you're ready to go and you look down and you realize how far out of your comfort zone you are, I guess technically there's a point there that you could still back out.
You could, and that's you now looking down, and now your brain is trying to do everything it can to talk you out of it.
Yeah.
And then the more you let it, the longer you stand there and let your brain talk you out of it, the more it's going to be convincing. The more it's going to sound better. It's going to convince you, and it's like it's okay to stop right now. And it's okay to go back now.
But then there's the two little things on your shoulders. Like on the one side, there's don't do it. You can get down. You can leave. You don't have to put yourself through this. And then the other side is like, you're here already. Just do it. You're out of your comfort zone. So you got those two little things.
Two little
voices. Fighting with each other. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to continue this talk about comfort zones.
Yes, that
All
works.
Right. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're going to continue talking about comfort zones, and we ended off with me kind of talking about those two voices, arguing with each other. One saying, get out of the comfort zone and do this. And the other one is saying, no, stay in your comfort zone. You don't want to go outside because it's dangerous out there. You don't know who's lurking around every corner. So, I still get that feeling sometimes, today. Not today in general. Not today specifically, but this period of time in general. If I feel like I'm bordering on my comfort zone, those voices come to me and they're like, okay, just do it. You're gonna be fine. Like Shia LaBeouf, we were watching that at work today. Do it, I don't know if you guys have seen that, but if you haven't, you need to Google it. Shia LaBeouf, do it on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's actually really inspiring. Anyway, so you've got that one voice that's just telling you, do it, get out of your comfort zone, expand your zone a little bit. But then you have that other voice that is the doubt, the voice of doubt. And it's just like, no, you really don't need to do this. You don't want to do this. Just, just back away. Just, don't worry about it. And I still get those two voices fighting a lot. I can't remember the last example that I have, but
yeah, most of mine is social, mostly trying to avoid social interactions that feel uncomfortable, mostly around people I don't know or never met, don't know well enough.
Mm-hmm.
And conversations are usually either very short
mm-hmm.
or avoided altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have gone out of my way to go
yeah, to go all the way around so that you can stay in your comfort zone.
Yeah, which is just weird that I'm willing to go, walk much further to not have to talk to somebody I don't really, feel comfortable talking to necessarily.
Well, and maybe this falls in the lines or not, you can let me know, but if we're at the grocery store or Walmart or something, we're in a store and there's one person in the aisle, I think most of the time you will choose to go the next aisle over so you don't have to walk past them or be near this person you don't know.
You have done that too.
I have, yes, I will admit. But usually when I do it, there's more than one person and it's too hard for me to navigate through. So yes, if there are people in the aisle, I usually avoid it, but I feel like that's a big... a big example of what you were talking about.
Yeah, I definitely go out of my way to avoid those kind of situations.
Yeah.
And I never would have done this either.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm not entirely comfortable with driving in cities either.
Yeah, I know.
That's definitely something I'm not particularly comfortable with. It's something I've always been pretty bad at. I mean, growing up in a countryside with very few neighbors, it's just I don't have a need to be accustomed to all these people driving around, but then here I am.
So is your comfort zone in Oregon different than it was in Kansas? I mean, I know the social part, the people part, but for example, driving around Kansas, you probably felt pretty comfortable, even in some parts of the city.
Well, yeah, because most of the parts of the city I went to were fairly straightforward, and I knew where I was going.
It was familiar.
But it took years to do it. But
right, yeah.
It's different here than it was.
And I think that has a lot to do with being familiar with the area. Like in Kansas, you grew up there, so you knew the area pretty well after you had driven around it, for years. Mm-hmm. Here, you've only been in this specific area of Oregon for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, you've been with me in this area, you don't know the streets well enough to feel more comfortable like you did when you were in Kansas. So I think it's a familiarity kind of thing that can help you get outside of your comfort zone, right?
Well, so I'm just used to just being away from people, being on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm most accustomed to, is, you know, living out in the countryside. There's not many people, so I just got used to doing everything on my own mostly, and going around and wandering around.
So if there was no other driver on the road, you'd probably feel more comfortable.
Well, fewer.
Yeah. So if there were few people, okay, all right, well that makes sense. So it's more of a, still the social aspect of it. I mean, not that you're gonna run into somebody in a car and talk to them, you know, but it's just the point that there's more people out there for you to maneuver around.
I still don't know where I'm going.
Right. Well, you have a pretty good grasp on the major roads. You could get from our house to my parents' house without a problem.
Yeah, that's about.
And you can get to work, and you could go to the other end of town where Safeway is.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah. But I mean, I see your point. I do.
Yeah. But I mean, driving isn't really that big of a deal. Compared to my social thing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I guess going from Kansas to here was going outside of that.
Well, that's major, going outside of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah, because I basically just left what I had there behind, and then flew out here and just didn't go back.
I still remember the day that you walked off the plane. I was out of my comfort zone too, because let me tell you, as a female trying to meet somebody on the internet, that's scary. Just in general, even though we had FaceTimed, we had talked on the phone for hours and hours and hours, we had, you know, interacted in this video game that we met in forever, you know, well, not forever, but for a while. I had a pretty good idea of who you were, but it's still in the back of your mind. You're just like, am I about to meet somebody that's going to kill me? Like, are we okay? You know, I mean, it's just meeting people online, you know, that whole stigma, when it first started becoming very popular, a lot of people were really skeptical about that. And for good reason in some cases, because there were a lot of unfortunate incidents that happened with people meeting online like that. Luckily, you're not a serial killer, I'm not a serial killer, so we got along well enough that it wasn't a problem. But that was outside of my comfort zone too. And I still remember the day that you stepped off the plane. Like, I was eyeing you like a hawk, because I could see out the window when your plane landed, and I could see you kind of moving around outside. And I wasn't exactly sure if that was you or not, but based on the FaceTimes and based on the pictures, I could tell that was you. So I saw you get off the plane, and I'm just like, okay, I feel better. Immediately, my comfort zone kind of grew a little bit. It expanded just a little bit. And then we hugged, and
yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, and that was a big risk going outside that comfort zone, being in Kansas, in a completely different area, climate, region, everything, and then coming to here, and everything is different. So that was one thing that I did to go outside of my comfort zone, and doing this podcast, and hopefully I can keep going and doing other things to go outside that. And that's not going to be easy. That's the biggest thing, is that it's not going to be easy.
Right, yeah.
It's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of effort. It'll probably take years for me to like kind of get over this. And that's fine. I get that. It's going to take a lot of effort, but it can be done. Yeah,
it definitely can be done. And I think working with maybe somebody, like we've talked about working with a professional counselor or psychologist before, and I think that it's really important if you are somebody that's trying to get out of your comfort zone or even expand it a little bit, but anxiety and stress kind of, you know, hold you back, or fear, if those emotions are holding you back, I think it's really worth it to talk to somebody professionally about trying to find ways to better cope with it and very safely try and find ways to expand that comfort zone.
Well, and I mean, like reasons as to why you would want to get outside of your comfort zone. Like people may wonder, well, I mean, why would I want to go outside of my comfort zone? It's comfortable.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But it's like, you don't, it may be nice in that comfort zone. Believe me, I know. It feels great to just, go home. It felt great to go home and just not have to worry about anybody else. It's like, okay, in here, I don't have to worry about anybody else judging me or anything like that. I'm safe here, but you don't really grow there.
Right.
There's nothing to help you improve your life from in that comfort zone. You have to go outside of that and do new things, experience new things. Otherwise, you're missing out on a whole all these different all new worlds out there to explore, different things to do and try before. You only get one life to do all this in, so why would you spend it just staying in that one little comfort zone just because it makes you feel good? It's not going to be fun at first to get outside that comfort zone, perhaps, but there's going to be things that that you may be apprehensive about trying. Like when we did the whitewater rafting.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I legit didn't know that your comfort zone was not part of the water. I feel really bad about I booked this whitewater rafting trip alone, just the two of us, no guide or anything. I had been once before, but I booked it for our 2-year anniversary. Was it 1 year or 2 year?
This was our 2-year.
I think so. And I didn't know that he didn't like water.
Oh, I did. I more than didn't like water. I was like phobic of water, mostly deep water.
Yeah.
And deep, fast-moving water.
But I didn't realize that until, I guess I told you what we were going to do before we even did it. And you didn't say, I have a phobia and I'm going to be very anxious and stressed out. Instead, you tried to be nice and you're like, oh, that sounds like fun. Yeah. And we did it.
I mean, yes, and it was fun. However, when you start out by immediately setting off into the water and then the first thing the current does is pull you to a large rock face.
Yeah.
And
he thought we were going under.
I thought we were going under.
He thought we were done for.
The first thing it does is it takes us to this rock face and the water sloshes us up the side.
Yeah.
And then I thought we were going to tip. And then we slide back down the rock and come down and kind of spin
out around it.
And then we get stuck on a
rock in the middle of a rapid.
Yeah, we had to try to like
shimmy off.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It was fun, but I did have a lot of anxiety too because I had only done it once before. But because the people I was with were so experienced, I felt like I was in control. I felt experienced. And I'm like, okay, well, this is easy. We can do this. But like after the first 10, 20 minutes, all I wanted to do was finish and get the F out of there for sure. I was like, okay, we need to like wrap this up. Paddle. And we finished like 2.5 hours early?
I don't know.
It was something like that because the vans that come to pick you up at the end, we were supposed to have waited another 2 hours for our van shuttle, but we ended up hitching a ride on one of the earlier shuttles that were picking up somebody else. Luckily, they had room. Otherwise, we would have had to wait there for like 2 hours.
Well, do you have anything else?
I think that pretty much wraps it up. I mean, you really put a good ending on that with why do people want to get out of their comfort zone and to grow as a person and to kind of discover who you are. I think it's beneficial to take baby steps to get outside that zone
and find something that you might like more than you thought you would.
Exactly.
Like, you don't know, maybe try football or try more sports, extracurricular activities, try whitewater rafting or take a trip somewhere. I don't know, do something different.
But if you do go rafting and you have never been, make sure you take somebody that really knows what they're doing because it will help a lot.
Yes.
All right, well, I think we're going to wrap this up here. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you guys enjoyed and got something out of this podcast. Please be sure to stay tuned for our next episode. We're going to try and do one a week. So
Thursdays.
On Thursdays, we're going to try and stick to that schedule. So we're still trying to get into the rhythm of this whole thing. So We'll just have to bear with us while we kind of work out the kinks, step outside our comfort zones, and get this content up for you guys. So thanks so much for joining. We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.